When did you realize that you're dating and your future husband-wife? I wanted to ask my wife out the first second I laid eyes on her, wanted her to move in with me after our very first conversation, and never wanted to be away from her after our first date. Never believed in love at first sight, am not even all that into looks, so it had to be something else. Best 17 years of my life, really the only 17 years of my life that mattered truthfully. I hope everyone finds their someone like that. It's quite an experience to know unconditional love. What's even better is when you realize you are giving unconditional love. It's like a joy and happiness fusion reactor. It hit me like a ton of bricks one random Tuesday afternoon. A bit like that line from Rocky, "We fill gaps." She came from a pretty bleak background while I was looking for consistency and empathy. I had a panic attack and was hysterical. He then tried to call and text me a couple of times, knowing I was upset and wanted to make sure I was okay. I had messed up really badly and he kept soothing me throughout like I did nothing wrong. I felt safe even though he couldn't be with me physically at that moment. But what sold me was that he had put the phone on his lap and was typing on his computer. So from my paw it looked like I was lying my head on his lap while he did work and comfort me at the same time. It felt very domestic and blissful, and I just thought to myself, fuck, I wanna be with this guy forever. From the first time I met her I knew. Sounds cheesy, I know, but it was unlike anything I'd ever experienced. We met through a dating app, which had never amounted to much of anything for me before, but with this one match I just had a gut feeling that I had to meet her. Then I saw her and felt like I had known her my whole life, and she felt the same. We've been together almost 3 years now and will be married a month from tomorrow. On our first date, I was in my 50s. I had been single for 20 years. My first marriage was that bad. I was happy being single. Had a couple of long-term relationships, but really didn't want to ever get married again. I came home from that date and told my roommate of 8 years that I had met the man I was going to marry. She laughed herself silly. He got lost going home from our first date, like ending up in a different town. Lost. We laughed like crazy. He asked me to marry him 2 weeks later. But we didn't tell his adult children for 3 months, because we knew they'd think we lost our minds. We married a year later. On the anniversary of our first date. We had 17 years before cancer took him. He was brilliant, funny, annoying, messy, stubborn, opinionated, very kind, deeply Christian, and never boring. God, I miss that man. We both just knew, by the end of the first date. He told me later he would have asked sooner than 2 weeks, but didn't want to scare me off. Something else to laugh about. We laughed about everything. When I realized that I've never felt like this about anyone else in my life, and that I didn't want to try and find out what my life would look like without her in it. Fast forward 17 years and 2 kids later, still feels the same. We had a big argument before our second date. This would usually be a bad sign, but we both admitted fault for communicating poorly and resolved it like adults. We've been married for 2 years and of course we still have our arguments, but we're really good at resolving them. Our golden ticket is being able to say, I love you and am upset with you. Even better when we can say, it makes me emotion when you action. After about 10 months of being a couple and about 7 months of having moved in together, I caught myself thinking I could well imagine staying with him forever. And then I thought about it and noticed it felt completely right and plausible. And I decided to just wait and see how things will work out. Time will tell. We have been together happily for more than 15 years now and married 5 years ago. If there is anything one could learn from this, then it's probably that there is no need to rush to marriage. If you are a happy couple, it will last anyway. And if you aren't, marriage won't change that either. And then, of course, with an important decision such as marriage, it is never a good idea to rush. Only took 3 or 4 dates over the course of a few weeks. Was 90% sure if things went right she would be the one. That went right, and here we are 16 years, 2 kids, a dog, and a house in the burbs later. First met until first date 5 months because she had a boyfriend. First date until proposal 6 weeks, proposal until acceptance 2 seconds, proposal until wedding 5 months, wedding until first child 5 years, wedding until today 35 years, 2 days. First date until first real argument, still waiting. She's my best friend and we spend almost all of our time together. I knew that she was the one by the end of the first date and I am still madly in love with her. I have had a blessed life because of her. At some point every plan I had for the future involved her. It was a weird thing to realize, oh, this won't work. She hates places like that. I can do a different job and move somewhere else. Before we started dating, she had become essentially my best friend with whom I did everything: coffee after work every day, hang out in the evenings, and on weekends. After 4 months of this, I realized I had feelings of more than friendship and debated saying anything at all. I thought to myself, I'm gonna either lose my best friend or start dating my future wife. It was very early. Within the first few weeks, for the first time in my life I felt safe and valid. He was kind not just to me but to everyone around him. Within a few months we were spending basically every chance we could together and never tired of him. I finally felt at home. 10 years later and I still feel safe and valid and cared for. He's taught me patience and unwavering love. Before I asked him out, he wasn't even looking for a relationship or anything casual. He was the sorted to my chaos. Now 18 years later I am the sorted to his chaos. It hit me and him the next morning after being official in our relationship. We always got along well before that and now. The first time we talked, it felt like two old friends who've known each other for a long time and finally meeting up again. Drove to a friend's house with her. On the drive I realized that we hadn't said anything for about 10-15 minutes and I felt completely comfortable. Been married 24 years now. When I realized the lamp wasn't real and woke up. We moved pretty quick. I think we both knew what this was almost immediately. For me it was within the first 2 weeks of dating. I was late getting to her place and my phone had died at work. It was raining pretty bad, which delayed me further. Anyway, I got to her place and she came out of her room, red-faced, tears in her eyes. I was immediately furious. Whoever had made her cry like that, I was going to wring their fucking neck. She walked over to me and hugged me while I tried to get her to tell me what happened. She explained that she was worried about me. She thought something had happened to me. She was crying because she feared for me. No one had really cared like that for me before. I knew then that I would do whatever it took to keep her safe and happy. She's been my lighthouse for going on 11 years now. I suspected at the moment I saw him in person. We met online and chatted for 1 week. Before meeting he somehow looked even better than his photos. 3 weeks in, I suggested we make a fort. He immediately agreed, and we made the most elaborate fort in his living room and watched a movie in it. I was 100% sure he was the one at that point. Going on 7 years now, we're best friends, sex is great, we've had maybe one fight ever. I don't believe in soul mates, but he's pretty damn close. When he cooks, does the dishes and goes to work himself, life is good. Honestly, it was during our first big fight. If we hadn't been so determined to make it work, we probably could have ended things right then and there. But we worked through it and now we're happily married. Honestly, at our first date, he was waiting for me outside of his car and it took just one look at those big, brown eyes and I was done. I had a feeling in my chest to just open my arms and hug him tight. I didn't want to seem like a lunatic though. Been together for 2 years and we will be moving together this summer. I still want to run towards him and hug him tight every time I see him, even though we see each other every day. When you can stand long periods of time in silence around them, be apart from them in peace without any worry they are cheating or up to something, trust, you like their family, you like important things about them. Their character is good, not twisted or vindictive. They are financially stable and on the same page as you, goal-driven, productive, career-minded. They want the same things out of life you do. There are things they do way better than you in areas you are terrible at. A teammate, strong alliance. They don't need you for anything, not high maintenance, self-soothing, easy to take care of, not demanding. Just an all-around chill person who fits into the picture of what you think you want in life, and that you hope they feel the same way about you. It's important to point out life is a journey though, and things change. You may not always get the picture of your dreams, but it's the dream you lived. The night we met, total love at first sight. I called my friend that night to tell them I met the one. That was 14 years ago.